What is up, my darlings and dudes? It's Taylor, and thanks for jumping on this video on YouTube. I'm trying really hard to grow my audience and to be better at creating content that is interesting, but I am trying to get over my own mental blocks of not wanting to share anything or talk about anything until it's like all the way 100% finished. I don't know if that's the perfectionist in me or the overachiever in me or whatever it is, but I have been fighting the feelings lately of not wanting to post certain things that I'm working on because of the fact that it's not 100% done. So this video today is going to push me outside of my comfort zone and share information with you about a deal that we're working on within the real estate community. And honestly, I'm nervous about it and I'm excited about it and terrified and uncomfortable. And that's all the things that I am pushing myself to be in the new year in 2022. Before I spill the beans, I have to ask if you would consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and supporting me along my content creation journey. Okay, let's get into the facts. Fact number one, I have been talking to more people about real estate investing than I ever have before in my adult life or in my entire human being life up until this point. So because of me talking more, asking more questions, finding more people in the community, I have opened up a lot more opportunities for us. And this property came across my desk by me talking to people that I know who are clients, who are prospects, who are other people in the community who are involved. And I just started asking questions. I asked about what they owned, if they knew anybody who owned anything, and I was asking about ways to scale. I asked and received. So this current group of properties is owned free and clear by the owner group, and they are willing to work with me and Michael about creating a contract for deed type of situation to get into the properties with a little fewer dollars down, and essentially instead of having a traditional mortgage through a bank or through a corporation, we are utilizing, or we're going to, but we're not quite there yet, utilizing that equity that is 100% that they literally own the properties. By treating them as the bank, now they get to reap the rewards of interest. They get paid the interest on the property, but also they are allowing themselves to get what's called like drip income throughout the next few years to avoid paying a massive capital gains tax dollar amount on it by selling the properties in one shot. Now, if you know us, we're trying to strategize and be smart about our rental properties, and as you may or may not know, we put a lot of money down in our first two properties in 2021. So because of that, we would like to pay as little money down as possible to keep our own personal capital in case and when we need to use it for repairs or things happening or whatever within our rental properties. Our strategy is to use other people's money to secure that second position as the down payment. So what I mean by that, with these properties that we've got going on right now that I'm working on, the total purchase price, let's just say it's $1 million. $1 million is the total amount that we would need to borrow and to start repaying, because Michael and I do not have $1 million sitting around. We're going to leverage a few different things. So not only have I found an awesome property portfolio to purchase, possibly, oh my gosh, that was a lot of P, a lot of P words. Not only have we got an opportunity to purchase the properties, but also I have created other connections with other people who are simply hard money lenders. So they have money sitting that they want to put to work. Now, my process on this is how can I create a win-win-win situation? So from that perspective, I am not looking at how much cash flow is coming directly to Michael and I every single month. That is not the goal. The goal is to get the properties in our name and to eventually own those properties ourselves. If I can figure out a way to borrow the 20%, let's say $200,000 in this case, pay as a down payment to the owners to do a contract for deed, I then use the full cash flow every single month to pay the mortgage, which is the previous ownership group, and then additionally the $200,000. So it's basically first position and a second position. What happens is your interest rate on a first position is typically lower because it is secured by the properties. So if anything were to happen, if there were to be an accident, something like that, and Michael or I or both of us are no longer here, then at least the bank or the owner of that note has the properties. So that's why it's a little bit lower of an interest rate. Just like on a mortgage, you pay 3-4%, whatever, because it's a little bit more safe because there's a physical property right there that the bank can repossess and resell if needed. Obviously, they don't want to do that. With the second position, they're put in a second position because they have the second position on getting the property. So if there is something that happens, they have more risk involved because they don't have that direct right to the property. What they have access to is our personal, like our bank account, our assets. And because of that, we're willing to pay a higher premium to the hard money lender to be able to float us that money. So instead of a 4% or 5% or 6% on a contract for deed, whatever it is, we would pay this hard money lender maybe 8%, 10%, something like that, because the riskiness of those two different things are in proportion to what it is that we need. So you might be thinking, wow, that sounds like a lot of work to get set up. It is a lot of work to get set up, but mostly I want to do our best at making sure that we are secure and we are safe and making a smart financial decision. At the end of the day, if there's not enough cash flow on a monthly basis, Michael and I still have to cover both of those notes. And in addition to that, we still have insurance to pay, we have the taxes to pay, we have utilities, whatever else that comes into play with owning those properties. We still have to pay those every single month, regardless of who are living in the property paying us rent every single month. So this is not for the faint of heart. This is not for people who do not understand or know what exactly that they're wanting to bite off and chew. So I've seen a lot on, I know Rich Dad Poor Dad talks about it a lot, of using other people's money. So that acronym is OPM. And basically what you're doing is utilizing that down payment from somebody else to fund the full mortgage note from either a bank or that private party. It kind of puts us in a really interesting position because not only do we have to get everything set up with this, but we have to get everything set up with this, plus the properties and the property manager and all these crazy things that kind of happen in the meantime. Also with these properties, the previous owner, or the, I guess, current owner, they have taken really, really good care of these properties. So part of me believes that there's an additional trust factor versus having it be passed around from investor to different owner and blah, blah, blah. And although that wouldn't be bad, I just feel a better sense of security knowing that it was taken care of, that it was maintained over the years in a really well way. There's a few things that are kind of circling in my brain, and like I said, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of ranges of things. And so I merely wanted to make this YouTube video to document what we're doing and where we're at in this process. So far, we have talked to the owners, we've talked to the money lenders, we've talked to ourselves and what we're willing to do, what we're willing to risk in order to get these properties. The next step for us is to figure out the exact numbers. We have the cash flow, we have the taxes, we have the insurance costs, we have all these dollar amounts figured out. My next step is to put numbers together specifically to present to the ownership group. I'm gonna come to the table with 3 different options. With contract for deed, there's a few different things that you need to keep in mind is that it's a significantly shorter term than using a traditional 30-year mortgage. So I'm talking about 3, 4, 5 years maybe. What's gonna work best for them is what's gonna work best for them from a tax advantage perspective. That is what they're looking at it from, is making sure that it makes sense for them so that they don't have to pay $1 million worth of capital gains tax in 1 year. So how do I present that to them where it is a trickle effect that allows them to span that out over time? So we have that in the back of our heads at all times. In addition to that, I want to make sure that Michael and I are buying a property, but we're also chipping away at the actual debt portion of it. So when we buy a property, we want to make sure that we are growing in equity with that every single month that the tenants are paying. Also with that, we need to keep in mind that that payment that we're paying is principal and interest to that contract for deed. When you're looking at it from the first position standpoint, it is truly a mortgage. It is a mortgage payment that you're paying every month for those properties. And on the second position, which would be the down payment, those dollars would be a interest only payment. And what that means is that on a monthly basis, if we were to borrow, let's just say $200,000, that dollar amount that we would pay every single month would be the interest only amount. And at the end of that term, let's say that term is for, 4 years, whatever. At the end of 4 years, it is a balloon payment. So not only do we pay them interest every single month, but then at the end of those 4 years, we would have to come up with $200,000 to essentially buy them out and cancel that out. Again, you pay a premium to borrow the money because you need the money in order to secure the full asset that you're looking at buying. So it's kind of a really weird, interesting, delicate place to be in because you have to know your numbers really, really well. And that is exactly the spot that we're at right now, is figuring out those numbers really, really well. And you might be thinking, okay, well, if you borrow somebody else's money to purchase the properties and then now you have to pay that person still that same $200,000 back, plus you still owe this $1 million on these properties, like what is the end game? And the end game is building up enough equity in it in addition to appreciation over those 3, 4, 5 years that at the end of that term, for either the down payment or the actual contract for deed, you're able to refinance and basically buy out both parties. At that time, you would own the buildings as we would just own the buildings ourselves, have the cash flow coming to us on a monthly basis, and just pay that mortgage every single month. So that is where we're at in this giant swirling idea of what's happening right now in our world within real estate. And honestly, I am learning so much, and that is the funnest part about all this. I don't know if funnest is a word or not, but I just used it. What I am learning is that I am learning, and that is the coolest part about all of this, is that you have the ability to learn, and I have loved asking questions. That is how everybody learns, is by asking and doing. And so that is exactly what Michael and I are doing, is asking the questions, taking action, and honestly, just executing on what could be. And if I looked at my life and saw that I was in the middle of potentially purchasing about $1 million worth of real estate property in one deal, I would be like, I don't know. It just like makes me sweaty. Like it makes me very anxious and excited at the same time. So I am pushing you today to do something that makes you feel that way, to start dreaming and thinking about what could be. And all that it takes is you taking action, you connecting with people, you asking those questions. And if it's not real estate that you want to get involved in, that's fine. If it's not stocks you want to get involved in, that's fine. Find something that lights you up and start pushing yourself daily to find something that will be bigger, that will push you to your extremes to figure out what it is that you actually enjoy and want to do with your life. Again, our long-term strategy is to buy and hold and to have hundreds of apartments and hundreds of, units and doors to be rented out to people. But you don't just end up there one day. You have to find these steps along the way to get to that point. And so this is a step forward that we are taking. Again, I don't know if it's even going to work out. I want to say that 100% yes, we're doing this. It's been approved. We've signed, whatever. But that's not it. We have a lot of things to figure out in the meantime. And that is exactly why I need to become better at creating content for you to follow along in this journey. So if you find value in this, please give me a like, please consider subscribing like I mentioned before, and I'll see you guys on the next video very soon.